This is Atlanta News First at 7. 20 minutes of nonstop news starts now.
Now at 7, a cold night ahead and 4 first alert weather days. Strong winds, frigid temperatures, and the possibility of dangerous winter weather.
Atlanta News First, Monica Pearson with the first local, very personal interview with the proud grandson of former President Jimmy Carter.
It's amazing how hard it is to find somebody who will sit in front of you and say, I will answer your question honestly no matter what you ask.
Metro Atlanta students missing school consistently. Atlanta News First investigates why the housing crisis could be to blame.
And Chick-fil-A just made a change to one of their most iconic items. Now at 7. An Arctic blast now threatens to bring some dangerous cold to Metro Atlanta. We have 4 first alert weather days. I'm Blair Miller.
I'm Sean Gables. First alert chief meteorologist Jennifer Valdez is watching serious wind and cold tonight.
Yeah, and those winds not going anywhere through the evening and overnight. A wind advisory in effect through tomorrow morning for wind gusts of 35 miles an hour. Because of that, a first alert weather day tonight through tomorrow. Right now, already feels like 18 in Atlanta, 17 in Canton, and it will only get colder as we head into the evening and overnight hours. Another first alert weather day tomorrow. It will feel like the teens as you step out the door. Friday, a first alert weather day for winter weather, including the possibility of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. And that wintry weather threat continues into Saturday. Another day of winter weather in the forecast. Coming up, we'll show you what to expect tomorrow and the latest on that wintry weather later this week.
Jennifer, thank you. Now at 7, flowers, letters, and cards line the welcome sign at the Carter Center in Atlanta. And despite the cold weather, many Georgians are still coming out to pay their respects to former President Carter.
This is the last night he will lie in repose here in Atlanta. Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn is live at the Carter Center as mourners arrive. Patrick.
Sean, Blair, Georgia is saying goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter. And if you're headed out tonight, no, it is not too late. You can come and see the former president lie in repose until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Do not bring any bags. Security will not allow them. Do bring a coat. It is extremely cold out here. But more than 16,000 people have visited the Carter Center since Saturday night to get a glimpse of the former president. And from so many that we've talked with, they're overcome with emotion.
Emotional, very emotional, very heavy. Everyone here, it felt like your uncle died.
Stood there for a half hour, went through about 5 boxes of Kleenexes.
And Karen, you just heard from Chief from Atlanta. For her, former President Jimmy Carter was the epic statesman. For the second person you heard from, Steve, his daughter is now in the Navy. Jimmy Carter to him was that class act countryman. The motivation for so many coming down here is different. What is very clear is that the former president certainly left a huge imprint on so many. From the Carter Center tonight, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
Patrick, thank you. And right now, fewer than 12 hours remain for the public to pay their respects at the Carter Center. MARTA right now running free bus shuttles from the King Memorial Station to the Carter Center every 3 to 5 minutes. They run until 6 a.m. tomorrow. And be aware of this. You cannot bring bags or umbrellas to the Carter Center. It's your cover story. It is our cover story tonight. Atlanta News First, Monica Pearson has a heart-to-heart conversation with the grandson of Jimmy Carter.
And Jason Carter and Monica have known each other for decades. And in his first local interview since the former president's passing, the two met at Manuel's Tavern in Atlanta, where Carter announced his run for governor in 1970.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We go this way. Hey guys. Oh, that's a sweet shirt. Oh, you guys are good to see you too. Thank you guys for coming over.
Your father, that's all we can say.
Here's a
I have a shirt spirit.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Sure. Oh my God. I've been needing them.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
When you walked in the restaurant, so many people, the ladies at the table, grabbed you and hugged you. How does that help you?
Yeah, you know, I mean, again, we share my grandfather with the world in many ways, but that love is mutual, right? Like, we feel that outpouring of support. It's wonderful for me to have people stop me on the street and say, I'm praying for you. You know, to have people stop and say, I'm praying for your grandfather. And it's been happening, you know, and just when we drove up from Plains in the funeral procession, you know, the roads were lined with people. The overpasses on 75 were lined with people. And some of them had stopped their cars by the side of the road and were saluting. And others were holding signs and just waving. And it really is just a remarkable support for all of us and an uplifting for all of us that's really wonderful.
He also has fond memories of visiting the White House, spending time with his Aunt Amy while his grandfather was president.
Amy and I talk about it a little bit, and even lately, about, you know, the times I would go up there just to visit my grandparents. And, you know, they had that tree house built at the White House for basically me and Amy, and my cousin James came soon after. But it was a place where we got together as a family, right? When just because they were living in the White House didn't mean they were different than any other grandparents. They had us up there, and we built snowmen, and we did Easter egg hunts and all that stuff. We just happened to do it on the White House lawn.
Jason and the rest of the Carter family will be back in Washington, D.C. for his grandfather's state funeral. And while the entire guest list and speakers haven't been announced.
The president-elect had been extremely critical of your grandfather and had even called him the worst president. And then he said he's coming to the funeral. How are you all dealing with that?
You know, it's funny that you say it like that. We've all said bad things about a lot of politicians. You know, we've campaigned against many of the people who are coming to the funeral and had political disagreements with people who will be at the funeral. But this is something that's just bigger than politics. It's bigger than politics, and I'm so appreciative, frankly, that President Trump will be there to just demonstrate to all of us that this country is bigger than one person, that, you know, we celebrate these presidents as human beings, and they all embody us as a nation, for better or for worse, for the period of time that they're in office. And so I think my grandfather would be happy, and that if the shoe was on the other foot, there's no doubt that if my grandfather could be there for Donald Trump's second inauguration, he would have been there.
Both Monica Pearson and Atlanta News First anchor Tracy Hutchins are now live in studio.
Sean, thank you. And of course, as expected, the Carters handle controversy with grace, as they always do. And Monica, you were able to speak with Jason Carter extensively. What did he tell you about memories of his grandfather?
Oh, so many memories. And there were two great stories. One of them we'll share on our special at 7:30. But to hear him talk about, you know, Papa, and calling Jason at 6:30 in the morning over Braves baseball, that someone had been traded.
That was the big topic of conversation.
That was the big topic. But that shows how, even though he was a former president, a former governor, he was human. He was just like the rest of us, and he really was the great Papa. But the other thing I loved about this, because I have covered the Carters for the 50 years I've been in Atlanta, was they would take the time to let you know they appreciated you. When I was diagnosed with cancer, both of them sent me a note saying they were praying for me.
Wow.
And then Rosalind Carter sent me this letter, which is most precious to me. You'll see it has the Jimmy Carter stamp on it. And it means so much to me because it's one of those letters, you know, you really appreciate. It was written November 22nd, 1988. Dear Monica, thank you very much for your significant contribution to the inaugural conference of the Rosalind Carter Institute for Human Development. Your presentation was a major factor in the success of the conference, and I am grateful for your participation. Jimmy joins me in sending you our appreciation and best wishes. Sincerely, Rosalind Carter.
Wow, something you will cherish forever. Yeah. And it's in pristine condition for a reason.
But of course.
Monica, thank you. You know what, tonight at 7:30, you can watch special coverage on Atlanta News First on the legacy of Jimmy Carter, with insights into the life of the former president that you will only see right here. Monica, thank you.
Now, First Alert Weather with meteorologist Patrick Pete.
First alert weather day for the cold moving in. First alert weather day tomorrow. Still dealing with breezy winds, and with that Arctic air mass settling in, it is just going to feel bitter. Feels like temperatures in the teens for the morning drive. You're going to need all of the winter weather gear, not only for the morning, but through the afternoon, because temperatures will get into the 40s, but because we're going to be tracking a breezy northwest wind, temperatures will feel like the 30s at best through the afternoon, and that cold air mass is digging in. And on top of that, we're tracking an area of low pressure that could bring a chance of some wintry mix into North Georgia. We'll break down when that could roll in coming up in just a few minutes.
Patrick, thank you. We are following some breaking news now at 7. A retired Fulton County deputy shot in southwest Atlanta. This is a live image from Lee Street. This is near the West End MARTA station and West End Mall. We just checked and have been told that the deputy's injuries are not life-threatening. Now at 7, not everyone loving the new recipe change at Chick-fil-A. The food chain's popular waffle fries will now have pea starch. It is supposed to help the waffle fry stay crispy longer. Chick-fil-A says the slight adjustment does not make the fries taste any different.
With the dangerous cold we're focused on and moving in, Atlanta News First Adam Murphy has 3 things you should have in your car now to prepare.
You can find everything you need to keep you warm and safe in your car if you experience car trouble during the cold weather. You can find it at your local hardware store in under 10 minutes. These items are a must. Number 1 right here, a bag of 10 hand warmers, $10. That's a great thing to have to keep your hands and your feet warm in the event that your car does break down. You need de-icer. A can right here of that will cost $4.59. This one even comes with a scraper, and we are expecting some winter precipitation. You also need a blanket. You can use one from your home. You can get a more expensive weighted blanket right here, or look at the emergency blanket. Very compact and just $4.59. If you have these 3 things in your car at all times, you'll be good to go. In Midtown Atlanta, Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
Now, your First Alert Weather Super 7-day forecast.
We have a frigid 7-day forecast with multiple First Alert weather days. Meteorologist Patrick Pete showed you about the cold air we have in place tomorrow, but Wednesday, not much better. The high is only 42 degrees, but it stays frigid the entire day. The bit of good news, it won't be as windy on Wednesday, but it will be downright cold. Temperatures in the 20s as you start off the day, only warming to the 30s throughout the afternoon. Then all eyes on Friday and Saturday. First Alert weather days for the potential of wintry weather. It is becoming more and more likely that we will see sleet, snow, and freezing rain throughout the day. Now we're fine-tuning who sees what and when. Here's a look at your hour-by-hour forecast. This will start early Friday morning with snow, sleet, and freezing rain possible, and that chance will continue as we head into the afternoon and even into the evening. And as we continue to fine-tune this forecast, that threat of wintry weather is high. In fact, it is likely across our area starting Friday morning, continuing into Saturday. And of course, as we get closer, as I said, that risk is likely. For more on that, let's head to First Alert meteorologist Patrick Pete.
Yeah, Jennifer, we're 4 days away from this event. So we're basically at the point where we're fine-tuning that timeline. We know it starts on Friday morning. We know that it's going to be an area of low pressure that's going to bring the chance for snow, sleet, and unfortunately ice. And I think the snow part's going to be okay. It's really the ice potential that really has us on guard. It's something that we're going to continue to dive into as we get closer to this event, especially once we get within that 48-hour window. Don't get too strung out on where it's showing the potential for significant ice, because we actually think this is going to be along and north of the I-20 corridor. Just notice that there is going to be at least the potential for some disruptive ice. And this is something that we're going to continue to track here in the First Alert Weather Center. And if you have the First Alert Weather app, you'll get all of our thought processes and everything that we see as we see it.
Yeah, ice is a possibility, and coming up, First Alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey is going to have more on what that much ice will mean for our area.
Jennifer, thank you. Now at 7, Atlanta students consistently missing class. Schools in the metro now facing the persistent problem of chronic absenteeism.
But now some new factors might be making this even worse. Atlanta News First investigator Sierra Cummings is here with us tonight.
Sierra, our local housing crisis seems to be a part of the problem here.
Yeah, experts warn there is a correlation, and it makes sense, right? Because think about it this way. If you don't have a safe space to lay your head at night, you're not thinking about school. You're thinking about where you're going to live and what you're going to eat. Atlanta News First Investigates found some really staggering data here that 1 in 3 children in the city of Atlanta public schools alone is chronically absent.
The motel off Powers Ferry Place was home for Jasmine Burse and her 4 kids.
A room that has 1 bed, so I have to decide if my kids are gonna sleep in the bed or if I'm gonna sleep in the bed.
She did her best.
I cried a lot.
To make ends meet after moving to Atlanta 3 years ago.
My thoughts were ensure that I can cover the cost of the hotel, ensure that I can cover the 3 meals for today, and ensure that I can cover the gas because my source of income at that time was driving for Lyft.
As her focus shifted to food and daily motel costs, school became less of a priority.
Out of the school year, I believe they attended maybe 3 months out of the entire school year.
3 months?
Yes, out of the entire school year.
Her kids are enrolled in the Atlanta public school system, where 19,000 students were chronically absent in 2023, missing more than 15 days. Atlanta News First Investigates analyzed state data, which revealed APS saw the highest rate of chronic absenteeism in the metro at 35%. DeKalb, Clayton, and Henry County schools, nearly 30%. Although the problem is far from new, education experts warn chronic absenteeism post-pandemic is exacerbated by an affordable housing crisis, like here in Georgia, where a minimum wage worker would need to work as many as 3.5 full-time jobs just to afford fair market rent. Jasmine could not afford an apartment, meaning her kids were a part of the nearly 1,900 APS students needing homes. Federal research released this year revealed children with an experience of homelessness from low-income families show worse academic and social engagement problems.
What do you need help with?
Jasmine says she knows it firsthand. Her oldest kids were no longer on the honor roll. Her youngest elementary kids struggled to read.
They're not at the reading level they should be, and it all goes back to being housing insecure.
Correct, because the reading, their foundation is in the kindergarten and pre-K era, and because I didn't have the time or I didn't have the energy to sit and read with them as I should because I was focusing on providing, that lack was there for them.
Parents do the best they can with what they have.
Charity Trowbridge, Director of Attendance Improvement for Fulton County Schools.
When students miss school, they're not just missing the academic work, right? Because it's the cumulative effect that becomes more significant.
And sometimes it goes unnoticed until it's too late.
Yes. And then we have major gaps.
Once the district saw some of its highest numbers of kids chronically missing class,
that was our indicator of, okay, this is an absenteeism issue that we really need to dig further into to understand so that we can better address it.
Her office began individualized student plans with wraparound services like housing resources to tutoring. They focus on kids showing some issues with attendance.
Doing locate, assess, connect.
Long before the problems become excessive. In the last 3 years, Fulton's chronically absent rate dropped from 37.9% to 22%. For families like Jasmine's, attendance improved when housing did too.
I'm so grateful.
Grateful for groups like Frontline Housing.
We do a lot of outreach, so we'll print out flyers and go hand them out at hotels.
I'll go ahead and send that.
Program Director Sierra Showers and Director Mary Grace King.
So this is the children's room.
Helped Jasmine move into this Marietta apartment, all made possible through their grant-funded Motel to Home initiative.
Housing, it is a basic need. It's just as important as eating.
Just to see how much families really can grow and change if you give them the resources and are willing to work with them, it's just really heartwarming.
When kids are chronically absent, specifically for 5 or more unexcused days, state law says schools can report families to Georgia's child welfare system. That's truancy, cases which may result in fines or even a parent's arrest. But we found most metro districts only do so in extreme cases where harm is suspected. To check your child's district absenteeism rate, text ABSENT to 470-77 WANF. We will send that information right to your cell phone.
Now at 7 on this First Alert Weather Day, meteorologist Ella Dorsey is watching the potential for icy roads and power outages this week.
We're likely to see rounds of ice and freezing rain on Friday, and we could see between 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch of ice. That's what some models are predicting. If that were to happen, we would see tree branches fall through the day on Friday, power outages and icy roads. If we were to pick up more than 1/2 an inch of ice, then we could see widespread power outages. That would be Friday evening and Friday night, and travel would be dangerous. Again, this is all in the forecast. We're not quite ready to talk about totals yet, but there is the chance for disrupted to even significant ice through the day on Friday.
Now, your top 7 at 7 with Tracy Hutchins.
Nonstop news continues, and we are catching you up on your top 7 stories in Atlanta that maybe you missed. Less than 12 hours left to pay your respects to former President Jimmy Carter, right now lying in repose at the Carter Center in Atlanta. And visitors telling us it has been emotional.
Incredibly moving. I mean, I felt it was a great privilege.
If you're planning to go, free MARTA shuttles from the King Memorial Station will run until 6 tomorrow morning. Dangerous cold and the potential for a winter storm in North Georgia. It is a First Alert Weather Day today and tomorrow, and we're looking at a turn for the worse late in the week. A MARTA bus driver killed over a $2.50 fare. His family gutted over that loss.
My nephew just said, "Where's Daddy? All of these people out here, where's Daddy?"
Leroy Ramos was 47 years old. His family now fighting for more protections for drivers. Rudy Giuliani now held in contempt of court for failing to turn over information to 2 former Georgia election workers. Giuliani was found guilty of defamation and ordered to pay almost $150 million. Today marks 4 years since the Capitol attack in Washington, D.C. More than 1,500 people have been charged, including more than a dozen here in Georgia. And bars in Atlanta, they'll be serving alcohol much later than usual. The night the National College Football Championship comes to Atlanta, the City Council just waived the 2:30 a.m. cutoff time for Monday night, January 20th. And tonight, Atlanta's newest City Council member is officially on the job. Ishay Collins was sworn into office and attended her first council meeting today. In her role as an at-large council member, she will represent the entire city. For expanded information on these top 7 stories, go to AtlantaNewsFirst.com or our free Atlanta News First app. Right now, a check of your First Alert forecast.
A First Alert Weather Day, Friday and Saturday in just 3 minutes. We're going to have the latest on the track of this area of low pressure and what it could mean for snow totals and ice totals across the area.
Kennedy, and you're watching The Financial Edge. Do you have a financial plan that addresses the 3 major risks that could derail your retirement? Joining me now is Chris Hoffman. Chris is the president and founder of Hoffman Financial Group, an Atlanta area firm that focuses on preparing people for a successful and happy retirement. Chris is also the popular radio show host of Money Unleashed and the official partner of the Georgia Bulldogs.
That's
Chris,
right.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Let's talk about these 3 risks.
Sure.
Longevity, changes to Social Security, and inflation. What strategies can we implement now that address those risks?
Great question. Longevity, those expenses are a real risk.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the major drivers in running out of money being the #1 concern of retirees. So that requires you to put together a holistic financial plan in writing and set aside some serious amount of money for those later stage of life expenses. Social Security, we run a full Social Security analysis for every caller. But not only do you need to know when it's in your best interest to trigger Social Security, you also need to understand what your risk gap could be if the government lowers your benefit. And we'll do that study for you and show you ways of closing that gap if that were to happen. The last part is inflation. Inflation, we should embrace it if we're retirees. It means that interest rates are higher. We can get more for our fixed income products. That's comforting because that's highly reliable or guaranteed income for us. So don't fear inflation. That's for the 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds to fear.
All right, Chris, thank you. And everybody who's watching at home, we have a very special offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, you will receive a complimentary personalized retirement plan. This will allow Hoffman Financial Group to sit down with you and analyze where you are in your next best steps. The number to call is 770-749-7224.
The Atlanta News First, the legacy of Jimmy Carter special is just minutes away.
Our own Monica Pearson and Tracy Hutchins joins us with a glimpse of our exclusive coverage.
Well, Sean, we're going to take you back to where it all started, how former President Carter's humble beginnings in South Georgia shaped his lasting legacy.
And I had a heartfelt conversation with President Carter's grandson, Jason Carter. I asked him about his fondest memories with his grandfather and the path forward for the Carter family. So join us for the Legacy of Jimmy Carter special, starting in just 5 minutes.
Now, First Alert Weather with meteorologists Jennifer Valdez and Patrick Pete.
Already cold air is here and more is on the way. A cold week ahead.
Yeah, this is gloves, scarves, seat warmers, all that. It's what you're going to want to have on deck as we
all the things. Yeah, I want to show you tomorrow's hour-by-hour forecast. Easy to see why. We will be in the 20s as you head out the door tomorrow. Only warming to the 40s as we head into the afternoon. That cold air stays with us, so that part of the equation is certain. It will stay cold through the end of the week. Then we'll be watching a system that'll be moving in from the southwest. As it moves in on Friday, we have a first alert weather day for wintry weather that starts Friday morning, off and on through the afternoon into the evening, and continues even into Saturday morning. Ice is a possibility. This is just one computer model, so take this for what it's worth. This will likely change and evolve as we get closer to Friday, but I want to show you the possibility of significant ice is a potential in the forecast. Cold rain, freezing rain, snow, and sleet will all be possible with that winter weather starting Friday morning, with more winter weather possible on Saturday. For more on that weekend and the next 7 days, let's head over to meteorologist Patrick Pete.
It's a very unseasonably cold forecast as we head through the next 7 days. Afternoon temperatures in the 40s, morning temperatures in the 20s, feeling like the teens as you head out of the door tomorrow. You see 2 red bars here. Those are first alert weather days that are elevated because we think we have the potential to see some significant impacts as we get winter weather moving through the area Friday into Saturday morning. On the back end, we will trend drier. Eventually temperatures will climb and we'll be back into the upper 40s by next Monday.
As you can see, you're set to wake up to a chilly morning tomorrow.
Yeah, get an updated First Alert forecast tomorrow at 7 a.m. on Peachtree TV before you head out the door. The news never stops on ANF+. Stream the latest breaking news, First Alert weather updates, and Atlanta News First investigations streaming anytime and anywhere.
Have a great night, everyone. Nice job, everybody.